Tom, Russia is a pariah state now. 250 companies have shut down their operations within the borders of Russia. Uh, what's your take on the impacts of all this? I guess we have been talking about this, but it just goes so far beyond. Like sanctions is almost a term that we've gone well beyond sanctions right now. So give us your thoughts on this.
First off, sanctions are a little bit like going into a bank and putting a gun to your own head and saying this is a holdup. You know, everybody is suffering. Now, the Russians are going to suffer, and they're being told a different story. And there's a little bit of embellishment, not only on the Russian side, but there probably is on our side too. But be that as it may, they're going to see it in the. Somebody said they won't be able to get a Coke or a Big Mac. I don't know that that's a big sacrifice to that society, but it really is having an impact. But it's going to have a cost impact to us as well, so that it's not painless. I mean, I was thinking we were talking about energy prices. You know, if the Canadian government, for example, cared about Canadians beyond ideology, one of the first things you do right now with this spike up is get rid of the carbon tax. We don't need that money to go buy windmills or solar panels at the present time. Canadians are, the average homeowner is paying $50 to $80 a month of carbon tax, not only to mention what you're paying on your gasoline tax. So if they want to ease the blow for Canadians in inflationary, never mind interest rates, because they aren't going to impact this type of inflation. Do something with leaving more money in the consumer's hand. Get rid of the carbon tax. That would be a starting point if you cared. And that would really, I think, go a good distance to helping the average Canadian. $50 a month to me or you probably not make a big deal of difference, but there are a lot of people who will make a difference to it.
Well, and indeed, there's going to be there is a projected to be another hike in the carbon tax on April 1st, right?
Well, that's unconscionable.
Yeah.
It's just unacceptable. It's because himself in Ottawa wants to meet some Paris Accords, which are no longer relevant in the world that we live in now. Energy security and reasonable cost is. And if we cared about the environment, we would have a big LNG plant, liquid natural gas plant in British Columbia, and one, by the way, in the Maritime, so we could supply China, replacing coal, which is environmentally friendly, right. Or we've been able to supply Germany and Europe in lieu of the Russians. So that's environmentally friendly. But there have been pressure groups, and I think funded by outside actors, standing in the way of these things for years. So it's amazing that we would charge more to Canadians for energy at a time when prices are spiking. And you think the government recognized that if anybody thought about it for 2 or 3 minutes or thought about Canadians.
One of the things that I found perplexing in the last few days is all this talk about replacing, in the U.S., replacing Russian oil and gas. I guess they were doing about $5 billion a year of purchasing from Russia. That's going to stop, and yet President Biden has shown no indication he wants to reestablish the Keystone XL pipeline, turn to Canada for the replacement oil and gas. He's talking to Venezuela, he's talking to Saudi Arabia, but he doesn't appear to be talking to Canada. Did you find that frustrating as well?
I think it's bizarre. If you look at the newspaper coverage or the media coverage, we're doing it. I mean, they're going to do a deal with Iran so they can free up Iranian oil as well. Mm-hmm. So you wonder why. And there's not been a mention of Canada in this at all. They're talking about drilling more in the States, et cetera. I guess the thing is, with all due respect to politicians of every stripe, politicians never admit they're wrong. Nobody ever comes on and say, God, did I make a mistake there? I'm terribly sorry. But the concept of scrubbing the Keystone Pipeline, that's 900,000 barrels of Canadian oil, cheap, into America every day. Solves the problem. In fact, we can solve much of it with existing pipeline capacity. But it really showed how vulnerable America made itself because of an ideology or the new religion of climate change, whatever. It's amazing, but I don't think President Biden can say, I made a mistake. I won't say it, but I don't think he even tacitly do it by even mentioning Canada, because if he mentions Canada, immediately Republicans and the rest of them will go to a Keystone Pipeline as a really dopey move on his part.
It would have been nice to have Justin Trudeau as a salesperson for our oil and gas sector too, right?
I don't know. I don't know many companies that would hire him to do anything.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll leave it at that.
I think my bias is showing here, Tony.
I think that's fine. That's what it's all about. We got to keep it real here at Boom and Bust. We're not going to censor anybody, and
That's good.
Tom Caldwell is our guest today. He's the chairman of Caldwell Securities Ltd. We're having a great discussion here about the state of the markets and the state of the economy. We're going to take another brief break. We'll be back after that break. Please stay with us.